Hello everyone, this is the Fantasy Almanac back at it with another draft video. Today we're hopping in another best ball draft. Basically the best ball draft is you enter a tournament and winner of the tournament it makes $2 million. So we're very hopeful to get the $2 million, even though there's a very slim chance. There is always the possibility. So we hop in a draft today. Again the buy-in is $25. Um, and we get the 10th pick, which I'm fine with, honestly. I think the 10th pick, it is tough to get value to fall there. I feel like all the players are kind of like pretty much in the same tier. Whether I get somebody like Stephon Diggs, Najee Harris, Dalvin Cook, um, really all of them are pretty similar players. And then coming back around 15, I would hope to get somebody like Joe Mixon, a CeeDee Lamb, someone like that. So I guess we'll see how the draft board falls, but we start off with OnlyFan Dan with the first pick. So with the first pick, OnlyFan Dan does decide to go Jonathan Taylor. Very expected pick. I think his ADP 1.2, so pretty much always goes in the first pick. Christian McCaffrey going at 2 is a tiny bit early for Christian McCaffrey, but with an ADP of 3.0, you can't really expect too much different. Cooper Kupp goes at the 103. Jamar Chase at the 104. Wow, over Justin Jefferson. A little bit surprising, but can't be too surprised. Jamar Chase, obviously a very talented player. DSR, yeah, I think he's got a pretty easy choice here, but let's see if he makes it. He does. He does decide to make it. Now, Dean James is up with a little bit more of a difficult decision. There's a number of ways he can go here, whether that be Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, or Stephon Diggs. Either way, can't really go wrong. But let's see where he goes. He does decide to go Derrick Henry. Not the pick I personally would have made, but I can't fault him for it. Austin Eckler does go at the 107, leaving us with a fairly decent chance to get the guy we want in Stephon Diggs. I wouldn't be mad with Najee Harris. I wouldn't even be mad. I would be a little mad with Dalvin Cook, but hopefully we can get one of either Stephon Diggs or Najee here. Philly kid, got 7 seconds left. Let's see who he goes with. He's taking all the time here. He does decide to go Stephon Diggs, ruining our hopes of getting Stephon Diggs, and Travis Kelce goes at the 109. I think we got a pretty easy decision here. I think Najee Harris has to be the pick. Najee Harris, the running back 3 last year on a points per game basis. Definitely a very talented running back, somebody you can't go wrong with. And the Steelers are going to be playing from behind a lot with the teams in their division. So I think Najee Harris will benefit from a high passing game or a high passing offense. Joe Mixon goes at the 111. He was somebody I was kind of hoping would fall to the 115 or the 2-3, but he does not end up falling. Here, there's 2 players that I really like. If I can end up with either one of them, I would be more than fine with it. CeeDee Lamb was one of those players. A little unfortunate to see that. But I would like Dalvin Cook here. This guy did get a running back first pick. He did pick up Joe Mixon, so maybe he decides to get a wide receiver of some kind. If Dalvin Cook does go off the board here, though, we will have. Oh, and Dalvin Cook does end up falling to us. Wow. So we are ending up with Najee Harris and Dalvin Cook. Getting a team like this right off the bat is very exciting. You don't see this too often. Najee Harris and Dalvin Cook. So it pretty much means we don't really need to focus on running back for pretty much the next 4 or 5 rounds. Just looking at the board here, we don't pick again until 34. And 34 and 39 is where wide receiver hotspots are known to be. Same thing with 58 and 63. 34 and 39, I can get somebody like Jalen Waddle, Deontay Johnson, Jerry Jeudy. And then at 58 and 63, I would hope that I can get a Darnell Mooney type and then Jalen Hurts at quarterback. This does mean that my tight ends are not going to be as good. Not going to be the strong suit of my team, but to get Najee and to get Dalvin, I think it's a combo you can't pass up. DeAndre Swift goes, and then Aaron Jones, both running backs who I would consider inferior to Dalvin Cook. Saquon Barkley, I think, is again a phenomenal running back. I can't fault anybody for taking him. He is flying up draft boards though, starting to get to the point where he's not really a value anymore, and you're taking him just hoping he returns to his 2018 form. Mark Andrews going at the 207, then Debo. I've seen Debo going later and later. Although I do understand the concerns with his usage and injury history, I do think Debo's a very talented player as well. Wide receiver two on the season last year. I really don't understand the narrative that Debo is going to be significantly worse this season. I still think he's going to be a great wide receiver, especially picking him, right near guys like Tyreek Hill and T. Higgins. I think Debo just should be in a tier above, and I am a little confused as to why he is going so low. And nonetheless, Javonte Williams, Leonard Fournette, and Tyreek Hill do go off the board here. All great players again in their own right. Now it leaves only Fan Dan in a sort of difficult position. Personally, I think he'll probably go T. Higgins and Nick Chubb. I think that's what most people would do. T. Higgins, a little tough being the wide receiver two in that offense, but he's the wide receiver two in one of the most productive offenses in the league, and a very talented wide receiver at that. I think T. Higgins would be a great pick here. I think he's a great pick in any draft, and I do own him in a dynasty league, so I'm very happy about that. But let's see where he decides to go. He does decide to go Alvin Kamara. Wow, getting three very talented running backs here. I can't blame him for that. I think it's an interesting strategy, but you do end up having to get value at 48 and 49 at the wide receiver position. And it doesn't give you as much flexibility if you want to go with George Kittle or someone like that. Mike Williams, T. Higgins, and A.J. Brown do go off the board. I think that is a little late for T. Higgins, right around where I'd expect AJ Brown to go. Although personally, I don't think AJ Brown's the greatest pick at this point, considering he's on an offense that is very run heavy. Uh, Jalen Hurts only threw 16 touchdowns all of last season and ran in another 10. I just don't see how AJ Brown has the path to the ceiling that some of these other wide receivers have, like Mike Williams, like Keenan Allen. But I know he's a very talented wide receiver, so I can't fault people for taking the upside. So we're about to be up soon. Again, I think the wide receiver we're probably hoping for is Marquise Hollywood Brown. I think if we can get Hollywood, I would be very happy with that. If Josh Allen does fall here, I would consider it, although I don't know if I can pull trigger on something like that. I think I don't think I can do it personally. I think he will go before that, anyways. To this person who picked Stephon Diggs, um, that's what I would do. At least getting the Stephon Diggs Josh Allen stack, can't go wrong with that. Let's see what he does. He does end up going Josh Allen. I think he may be on auto draft because he's been taking the top player every time. But this does leave us with a fairly easy decision between Marquise Hollywood Brown and Jalen Waddle. I'm not really too convinced Courtland Sutton's going to be the number one option in Denver next year. So I'm leaning against taking a guy like Courtland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy does go off the board here. Wow, that is very early for Jerry Jeudy. I was kind of hoping to get him at the 403, but that doesn't happen here. So we do get Marquise Hollywood Brown. And now I'm hoping for uh, Deontay Johnson here. I think Deontay Johnson's a very talented wide receiver. The situation might not be the best, but it is what it is. I think if Michael Pittman's on the board here, I really, really, really don't want to take Michael Pittman. I don't own him in pretty much any league, but the value here is too great. If his ADP is 30 and I'm getting him at pick 39 potentially, I think I have to pull trigger on it. I really honestly don't want to, but I think the value would be too good at this point to pass up on a Michael Pittman. Even though I would prefer a Jalen Waddle, a Deontay Johnson. I think, thank God Michael Pittman goes here. All right, so we are going to take Jalen Waddle. Uh, Jalen Waddle, I am a little concerned with them bringing in Tyreek Hill, but Tua Tagovailoa has shown that he really likes Jalen Waddle, and Jalen Waddle fits Tua's mold to a T. I don't think there's a better wide receiver for a quarterback like Tua than Jalen Waddle. So Jalen Waddle in a very good situation right now. I definitely very much like getting Jalen Waddle here, and now my team's looking fairly solid. I have two wide receivers who I would consider to be pretty good. Two of the best running backs, probably up there for the best running back duo in the league at this point. So now we got another 16 picks to wait. Just looking at the board here, Gabe Davis and Cortland Sutton go off the board. Me personally, I'm not a fan of either of those two picks. I think Gabriel Davis obviously flashed tons of talent, but in that in the Bills Chiefs game, but you can't base an entire wide receiver profile off one game. And picking him at pick 40 over very stable wide receivers like Deontay Johnson, Jalen Waddle, I don't understand it. Lamar did go very early here. Wow, oh my, 43 when there are other quarterbacks. I guess he does want the Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson stack, but I think he easily could have waited around, especially looking at trying to build the best possible team combination. Lots of other people probably can get Mark Andrews at 19 and then afford to wait another round for Lamar Jackson and get Lamar Jackson at 54, where this guy could take DJ Moore, Terry McLaurin, honestly anybody, Zeke, any wide receiver, running back that he wants to bolster his team before taking Lamar Jackson. Justin Herbert off the board here, and Darren Waller. Breece Hall is still on the board, which is very not surprising, I would say, but it is a little surprising. Patrick Mahomes still on the board as well. I think if he's there at pick 58, I may have to consider him. There's a lot of players I really like in this range. Breece Hall, if Breece Hall falls to me, I think that's way too much value. Pass up on, although I don't think he will, especially with Philly Kid 6 probably being on auto draft. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but it is almost the 4th of July, so there are lots of fireworks going off. So my apologies if you can hear anything in the background. All right, so Pat Mahomes and Breece Hall do go off the board here. There are two wide receivers I'd really, really like here, Rashad Bateman and Darnell Mooney. If I can get either of them, I would be ecstatic. It is looking like we will be able to get at least one of them, although I don't want to jinx it. It is possible. We don't. If that's the case, maybe J.K. Dobbins. All right, so now it's looking very likely we'll get one of the two. I'm hoping for Rashad Bateman personally, but Philly Kid 6 is probably on auto draft. So it is looking more like Darnell Mooney, which I'm okay with. I think Darnell Mooney. Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster. No, so it is possible we do end up getting. No, we get sniped on Rashad Bateman. Can't be too surprised about it. I think. How can you blame somebody for going Rashad Bateman there? I'm going to go Darnell Mooney here. And then there are a few picks I like here again. J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin, and Jalen Hurts. I think all three. Jalen Hurts does go here. But if I can get either one of J.K. Dobbins or Chris Godwin, I would be very, very happy in this situation. Josh Jacobs would be nice. After this, I do consider it a tier break now, especially with the Deshaun Watson news about Amari Cooper. I'm pretty concerned at this point. But I think, if need be, I would take Amari Cooper here. But that does not seem to be the case. I probably... See, this kind of puts us in a little bit of a tough spot, depending on who they go. They go Devonta Smith. I'm really not sure who I'd like more. Both are very good options. Ah, man, this is tough. I think taking Dobbins here is better because his ADP is higher. And at this point, we are going to be building a very unique team combination that very other few teams will have. It's very tough to get J.K. Dobbins, Dalvin Cook, and Najee Harris all behind their ADP. And then our wide receivers all around ADP, so it's a little different, but it will give us a very unique team combination. Surprised Chris Godwin's still on the board here, but I'm glad I was able to get value with J.K. Dobbins. So now taking another look at the board here. Got Elijah Moore, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper going off the board. Elijah Moore, I feel like that is a little early for a guy like Elijah Moore. Of course, he did have a fantastic rookie season, about the best you could have hoped for with a quarterback like Zach Wilson. But they brought in Garrett Wilson in the first round, 10th overall. Obviously, they're very much looking forward to getting him into the starting offense. And Zach Wilson only has so many valuable passing yards to go around at this point. I think the Jets offense does look really, really good on paper, aside from Zach Wilson. But at this point, I think it's a pretty huge gamble to take a guy like Elijah Moore at 64 when you could be getting Garrett Wilson, who they picked 10th overall, supplied all the draft capital to, and is poised to be the wide receiver one 4 rounds later almost. Kind of reminds me of a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins situation where T. Higgins is a very, very talented wide receiver, but Jamar Chase is just a next level prospect. And I'm not saying Garrett Wilson is the same caliber prospect as Jamar Chase, of course, but I think Garrett Wilson is at least better than Elijah Moore as a prospect, and probably will take over as their wide receiver one. I guess you could make a case that Elijah Moore will be seeing quarterback twos, but at that same rate, he will not be targeted as much as Garrett Wilson. I can almost guarantee it. All right, so DeAndre Hopkins here, Dalton Schultz, A.J. Dillon, Elijah Mitchell. So far, there are some pretty good picks. Trey Lance going all the way at pick 73. Something like that very much concerns me going Trey Lance that early. Because if you're going with a guy like Trey Lance that early, a lot of teams, like I was drafting him all over when he was going at pick 100. And now you're taking him 25 picks ahead of where his ADP was initially. So other teams are just going to have better combinations than you, and there really is nothing you could do about it, taking a guy like Trey Lance all the way at 73. This guy is building a very interesting team. I can't say I necessarily fault it. Very good tight ends, very strong running backs, and he figures he can get depth at the wide receiver position later. It's an interesting strategy. I personally don't know if I could do it, but because I like getting wide receivers early, especially in this format. Wide receivers fly off the board. You need to get wide receivers as soon as possible in a format like this. I'm really hoping at this point that Russell Gage can fall to us here, pick 82. If not, maybe T.J. Hawkinson. I would probably see if I can gamble and wait on T.J. Hawkinson until pick 87, but I'm unsure at this point. I would just really love Russell Gage. Really, oh my god, that would be awesome. If not, maybe getting Russell Wilson here might work. I would actually be pretty happy with Russell Wilson as well if Russell Gage is off the board. But if Russell Gage is on the board, I think that would give me a lot of depth. And no, we do get sniped on Russell Gage, which is to be expected. ADP of 73. But if I can get, and Russell Wilson does go off the board as well, now it kind of puts us in a sticky spot. I may go Tom Brady here, even though he does not give us a stack of any kind. I think going Tom Brady here is the right move. Yeah, I think I will go Tom Brady here. Tom Brady, again, a very, very talented quarterback. I don't know too much of Tom Brady because I'm not really drafting in positions where I need to take him. But I think taking him here right now is definitely a very solid option. It's probably the most stable quarterback you could take in fantasy, like ever. Now I'm looking at 2 players after this. Literally just T.J. Hawkinson and Allen Lazard. If I can get T.J. Hawkinson or Allen Lazard here, oh my god, that would be awesome. I think T.J. Hawkinson would be great right about now. If not, doubling up and getting Dak Prescott and taking quarterbacks back to back, and then not having to worry about it the rest of the draft could also work, considering at the 106, I probably will not be able to take Aaron Rodgers. I may be able to get Aaron Rodgers at that point. ADP of 104, it is possible. Especially if Allen Lazard does go off the board here, I think Dak Prescott has to be the right pick. I think I might even be talking myself into Dak Prescott anyway. I think Dak Prescott seems to be the better pick here, honestly, getting two phenomenal quarterbacks that I just don't even have to sweat and not taking a chance on Aaron Rodgers. And Alan Lazard does go off the board here, meaning that we can take Dak Prescott. The only other pick I'd probably entertain at this point would be Clyde. I think Clyde obviously has the draft capital backing into him, and if he's getting even 60% of the carries in Kansas City, he's going to be a very effective running back. I mean, he just has to be. I know he kind of has shit the bed, so to speak, the past 2 seasons. Really disappointing fantasy managers, but he definitely has the potential to break out in an offense like that if he's getting all the touches. So now, just looking at the draft board, we are seeing a little bit more running backs going off the board after a stretch of wide receivers and a few quarterbacks do go off the board, which is nice. We do like to see running backs going off the board here, especially because we don't really need any more running backs. We have 3 phenomenal running backs and some good wide receivers as well. Wide receivers that can all, I guess with the exception of Jalen Waddle, ascend to be wide receiver ones on their offense. 2 of them pretty much already are. I would say even with the return of DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise probably will not be affected too much, as long as he can work on his drops, you know? So in this next round, the 106, I'm hoping for James Cook would honestly be a good pick. Garrett Wilson would be a great pick. So I may be targeting somebody like Garrett Wilson, and doubling up with 2 great wide receivers here would be awesome. If I could get Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson here, 2 rookie wide receivers with a very high amount of upside, especially Christian Watson going into an offense with one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Kenneth Walker does go here, pick 96. Kadarius Toney has been going up draft boards, and Sky Moore has been falling. So it is interesting to see Sky Moore going behind Kadarius Toney. Especially, it used to be Kadarius Toney was behind Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, and now it's the total opposite. So here, Derek Carr and Matt Stafford do go off the board. It is nice that we got Dak Prescott and Tom Brady. Now we don't have to worry about getting another quarterback. The only quarterback we would want to take is Aaron Rodgers here, and while it is possible he could fall to us at the 106 and make our decision look a tiny bit stupid, it is nice to play it safe in a way and get two great quarterbacks without worry. And now we can afford to take either a great running back here, like Cordero Patterson. Ah, man. That's tough. Because Cordero Patterson, okay, so Aaron Rodgers does go off the board here, meaning that our pick was not in vain, which is really good news. I'm super glad about that. So now we're kind of put, not in a tough position, but I would say we just go rookies here. Maybe, Chase Claypool too. Chase Claypool, although I don't really love Chase Claypool, especially with the addition of George Pickens, Pat Frymuth taking probably a step up in this coming year. I do think he does have talent, and I did like him coming out of college. All right, so we got 2 picks left. I think here, even though it's a reach by ADP, I think going Garrett Wilson here has to be the pick. I think getting a guy like Garrett Wilson here, a very talented wide receiver, has all the draft capital in the world. What more can you ask for? All the draft capital in the world. He's going into a situation where his quarterback, I'm not saying it will ascend. I'm not a huge Zach Wilson fan. But if Zach Wilson does ascend, this offense has the potential to absolutely blow up. And I think it's probably the offense with the most potential to go from terrible to really good. Obviously, there is risk involved, but having that type of potential in a league where you can win $2 million, you can't overlook it sometimes, especially here at 106 when you're picking guys like Tyler Boyd who pretty much have no league winning upside. or Melvin Gordon, where he does have league winning upside, but it's not the same type of league winning upside. I think here I'm torn between going with either Christian Watson or Dawson Knox. I think I'm gonna go Christian Watson here. Dawson Knox would probably be the safer pick, but filling out my wide receiver room and allowing myself now to take guys like Mike Gesicki later. Um, Mike Gesicki, Cameron Brate, taking 3 tight ends later. Hey, Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith, Pat Fryermuth, Cole Kmet even. If any of these guys were to fall to me at pick 130 and pick 135, which they should. Mike Gesicki's at ADP is like 133. So it is entirely possible. Um, Now we'll probably see a pretty huge run of these tight ends, these running backs, and then these wide receivers off the board. So it is like a nice hearty mix, but I do expect to see definitely Dawson Knox off the board by the time we pick next. Probably all these wide receivers. If one of these wide receivers were to fall, or one of these 2 wide receivers were to fall, I think I would have to take Michael Gallup or Rondell Moore. And then I could kind of go a little lighter on wide receivers. Maybe instead of taking 8, I only take 7. Or instead of 9, I only take 8. Just depending on how it all goes. But Dawson Knox still on the board. I don't see how, if you don't have a tight end, passing on Dawson Knox at this point. Yeah. Tiger Woods getting an absolute steal. He's got some pretty good wide receivers here too. He's got a decent team. I don't know if I really like this team, but that's good. Uh, just taking a look at the board here again. So, yeah, we got a lot of these running backs coming off. Devin Singletary falling pretty far. I do like the potential of Devin Singletary and getting James Cook and Devin Singletary pairing, so you don't have to worry about James Cook busting, Devin Singletary busting. Maybe they have weeks where one dominates the backfield versus the other. I think it's a good pickup. Joshua Palmer going all the way at 122. Wow. Oh my God. I mean, obviously, in one of the most valuable offenses in the entire league, you can make an argument that they're going to be the most valuable fantasy offense in the whole entire league. I mean, I would say very few teams come close. So getting a guy like Joshua Palmer, who is getting first team reps, especially with the injury history of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen's age, although I'm not saying he's going to fall off anytime soon, Keenan Allen is an older wide receiver. It is possible he gets injured. It is interesting to see. This guy goes Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker, both way ahead of ADP. Me personally, I can't justify drafting Jacoby Myers or Devontae Parker here. I think they're both somewhat talented, but with a quarterback like Mac Jones, I mean, Mac Jones threw 3 passes in a game and they won, but you don't see that too often. You really don't, and I think their offense is not really predicated on the passing game. It never has been. I guess with Tom Brady, it kind of has, but under Mac Jones, it's not really the passing game. That's winning him games at this point. It's more the brilliant mind of Bill Belichick. So, I don't know. I think at this point, I would probably veer away from those type of wide receivers. So here we are going to take Pat Fryermuth. I think Pat Fryermuth is a great pickup here. It allows us some flexibility at tight end, where now we still should take 3, but now we have, 3 tight ends that should be able to at least hold their own. And then here, I would be so glad if I could get Mike Gesicki here. And that way we end up with Fryermuth and Gesicki giving us a nice floor, and then Cameron Brate, a round or 2 later, to help assist our ceiling. If that doesn't end up working out, I think going with running back like Ronald Jones here would bolster my offense a lot as well. I wouldn't be too mad with either Mike Gesicki or Ronald Jones. Jamison Crowder would be interesting, and so would Jahan Dotson too. Cole Kmet going at the 111, or the 11-11, excuse me. I do like the Cole Kmet value. I mean, he really has no competition for targets in that offense. But how efficient is that offense going to be? I mean, I think taking Cole Kmet here is good, but I wouldn't reach on a player like Cole Kmet too much. I do think he is good value, but I don't necessarily know about reaching on him too much. Here we are going to take Mike Gesicki again. Average 700 yards in 2020, 780 in 2021. Very talented. Can get the job done. At least that's very good for a tight end. Now he's going to get open a lot more. Hopefully, their offense will be more productive under Tyreek Hill. So even though his volume may go down, his efficiency should go up. Got Jahan Dotson going off the board. Alex O. I do like the Jahan Dotson pick here. I mean, totally, again, it's draft capital, pick 16th overall. And you do have Carson Wentz, without a doubt, an upgrade over Henneke. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. I know the Wentz hate has gone pretty far, but I do think Carson Wentz is definitely being 100% slept on this year in fantasy. Going off as, I think, the quarterback 26. I mean, that just seems like blasphemy to me. Absolute blasphemy. This is a guy who can get it done on the ground a little bit. I mean, 276 yards and 215 yards is nothing entirely special, but that is 21 extra fantasy points for your team that you didn't have before. If you include getting like 2 or 3 touchdowns, that's 35 extra fantasy points that your team didn't have. And then 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Obviously, 2020 was absolutely horrific. The offense was pretty terrible, but then going 27-7. Obviously, it's a tale of 2 years, but I think it is entirely possible that Carson Wentz will return to at least a somewhat decent form. So here we have sort of a tight end run going on, starting with Irv Smith and now at Hunter Henry. There definitely is a severe drop off in talent. This guy must really like New England, going Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, and Hunter Henry. I just don't see the strategy as much. And then going DJ Chark on a reach to him. I don't think DJ Chark's ADP is anywhere near, or should be anywhere near that high, especially for a 33-year-old wide receiver. Jameson Crowder, Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones falling all the way to 142. Man, Tiger Woods getting steal after steal. Dawson Knox and Ronald Jones. Good for him, picking up some good value in this draft. Now we got Darrell Henderson going off the board, and then Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones has been going pretty consistently out of ADP, which is nice. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I do have Daniel Jones above Trevor Lawrence and Jameis Winston in my rankings. So I do think it does make a lot of sense that Daniel Jones is climbing up boards. Here, now we're starting to get to the tier of players. It starts to get disgusting. I think at this point, maybe taking a very boomer bust prospect like Tyler Algier could be interesting. Mike Davis, watching him last year, he was probably the biggest fantasy bust out there, and I was sort of high on Mike Davis. I wasn't really touching him, but I also wasn't avoiding him either. I thought he had potential to dominate the backfield. I was a Cordero Patterson owner as well, so I did reap a lot of the benefits from that. But it is possible Tyler Algier gets some valuable touches in this offense. Khalil Herbert goes here. Obviously, we all saw the talent when David Montgomery was out. But when David Montgomery was healthy, Khalil Herbert basically got no work in the offense. I mean, I think he had 20 touches in every game combined that David Montgomery was healthy. So I think here, probably Tyler Algier can make a case for. I think that's who I'm going to go with. Although I don't love the pick, I think it's probably the best bet at this point for somebody who could take over a starting offense. And then with my next pick, I think Tyrion Davis-Price is the player I'm going to go with. And really round out and finish my running back room. And then just hammer wide receivers for pretty much the rest of the draft. Maybe try and get somebody like Cameron Brate in the next round. But that's really it. Just try and hammer as many wide receivers as I can after this. lock in, get two running backs that I think could have some upside, and then wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Paris Campbell going really early here. Wow. Oh my God. Doubling up, getting the two Indiana wide receivers, Indianapolis wide receivers. I do like Paris Campbell, especially where he's being drafted. I mean, this is a guy who was injured last year, uh, coming off like a massive injury, but a lot of Indianapolis fans are pretty high on him, and he is a guy who gets first team reps. Going into an offense with Matt Ryan, a guy who has proven that he can 100% handle multiple fantasy wide receivers on a team. So handling Michael Pittman and uh, Pittman, I think is possible. And then also Alec Pierce, again drafted this year, rookie. I think again you can't ignore draft capital too much. So although I do think the Paris Campbell pick is a reach, I don't hate it. Zach Wilson, Jameis Winston, Gerald Everett, and Sammy Watkins going off the board. I'm not necessarily a fan of Jameis here, but I teach his own. Zach Wilson, I do like I've spoken about before. I do think he has a lot of upside, so I think it's a good pick, especially if you can pair him up with somebody else, which maybe this is the guy who has. Uh, yes, this guy does have Elijah Moore. Maybe he is a little mad at me for stealing Garrett Wilson from him, but can't be too mad. Should have taken him earlier. Uh, where are we at now? So as we were saying before, another tight end run should be on up the board soon, and it is Gerald Everett, Njoku, Tyler Higbee. The Njoku pick is pretty intriguing, I think, as David Njoku could be receiving a lion's share, a huge workload if Deshaun Watson is to play. But if Deshaun Watson doesn't play, I mean, the David Njoku pick is pretty much a waste. It's like a wasted roster spot. So it's really all hinges on that. But just looking at it, I do think Deshaun Watson at his ADP is, I hate to say it, a value. If for some reason he is not suspended for the full year, he's gonna finish as a top 5 quarterback in points per game. I don't think there's really any way around it. I mean, he's that talented. And in an offense with one of the best O lines in the league, a fairly decent wide receiver core. I wouldn't say it's as good as DeAndre Hopkins, but you have Amari Cooper, the best running game by far that Deshaun Watson's ever had. So if he does somehow avoid a yearly suspension, the Deshaun Watson pick is easily going to return value for anybody who takes him. So right here, we're 6 picks away. I'm praying, absolutely praying, we can get somebody like Cameron Brate here. Cameron Brate would be awesome. Noah Fant does go off the board, making me a little more nervous, but Cameron Brate would be amazing. If not, KJ Hamler. I think KJ Hamler really does have an opportunity. Again, going back to the draft capital argument that I keep making, KJ Hamler, second round draft pick, has gotten some fair amount of usage in the offense. Last year did tear his ACL in week 3, which was unfortunate, but now coming back easily the best quarterback of his entire career in Russell Wilson. Like Russell Wilson should support that whole offense. I'm a fan of taking pretty much that whole offense, aside from where Courtland Sutton is going right now. Oh, we do get sniped on KJ Hamler, but it does leave us with Cameron Brate, who should hopefully be the top tight end option. So at this point, we're 4 picks away. I think now, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. I don't think there's any other position I can even justify taking at this point. I may honestly just stay in the wide receiver tab for the rest of the draft. Maybe see if Deshaun Watson's there at like the last pick and see if I could try and take him. But for right now, I think Wan'Dale Robinson is the pick here. Get a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson and then have potentially David Bell fall as far as our next pick, and then we may have to consider taking him. But Wan'Dale Robinson would be an absolutely awesome pick here. Again, draft capital, it all comes down to draft capital. And this guy was hyper productive in college. Coming into the SEC as a guy who is very small. 5'8", smallest wingspan in the NFL, and still getting over 100 receptions. I mean, what more can you ask for in a wide receiver? Very, very good production in college. One of the best. And although he is small, it is good to see that he had all that production and the draft capital going into him too. Here we do have Jamal Williams, James Robinson, and Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill could be an intriguing option. I mean, people were hyping him up as a quarterback 9 last year, and he was a very talented quarterback. But this year he looked absolutely horrific. I was disgusted with what I saw in Ryan Tannehill this year. It was shocking. Every Titans game, because I had Derrick Henry last year in my home league. Every Titans game, I'd watch Ryan Tannehill and just be absolutely disgusted with the throws he was making. Occasionally, he puts it in the breadbasket, and he can make throws that few quarterbacks can. But at the same time, he can make some boneheaded decisions. So it's interesting to see here. I think it's a worthy gamble, especially at pick 186. He doesn't have the upside of the better quarterbacks, but taking him at 186, can't be too mad about that. Now we have Kendrick Bourne, John Mechie, and Nico Collins going off the board. I think Nico Collins honestly could be, and John Mechie are both like somewhat intriguing picks. And I think they're much better for Dynasty than they are for redraft, just because I don't think Davis Mills is a long-term option. And that's honestly, that's not something I get really confused on. People are drafting Davis Mills in this as quarterback 27, one pick behind Carson Wentz. This guy can't run for his life. 44 yards, 16 and 10. Where is the upside? I just don't understand. I don't care. I don't care if he has the coach's confidence. I don't care what he's got. He's in a terrible, terrible situation. There's really no redeeming qualities. 16 and 10, we're going to act like that's good. We're going to act like that's a number we're happy with absolutely no rushing upside. If you have the rushing upside, like Daniel Jones, that's one thing. But with no rushing upside, I can't justify it. Especially with a guy with very little draft capital invested into him. I don't understand. So Brian Robinson, J.D. McKissick going off the board, back-to-back Commanders running backs. Donta Foreman too. Getting a lot of running backs coming off here, all the backups and everything. So it is good that we were able to get our running backs. And now we just hammer wide receivers. We have 2 picks left. Let's see who we can get. I'd say James Washington's a good pick. I'm not too big of a fan of Julio at this point, although he probably will be signed. I really haven't touched Julio anywhere, because at this point, if you're not signed, it's July. It is a little worrying. Going with James Washington here, he does have an opportunity to at least show himself in Dallas. Gallup is out, so I think it is a good pickup. And James Washington was in a very crowded wide receiver room in Pittsburgh. So I think getting James Washington here with one of the last picks, with the opportunity that he can have and a pretty big workload, because the Cowboys have shown that they love to pass the ball. They pass the ball more than pretty much any other offense in the entire league. So getting James Washington here in one of the last rounds is something that I really do like. And I think here, next pick I think I'm going to make is probably Romeo Doubs here, as Romeo Doubs goes off the board. So no more Romeo Doubs. Wow, that timing was crazy. Probably, I do have to go wide receivers, so not really sure. I'm not liking any of these names. I think I'm gonna go Khalil Shakir here. Although Khalil Shakir, a 5th round pick, he was a 5th round pick to the Buffalo Bills, one of the best offenses in the entire league. What offense is better than the Buffalo Bills right now? Maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Chargers. Very good company to be in. So we're taking Khalil Shakir, and that'll wrap up the draft for us. With tons of wide receivers going off here, we got a little wide receiver run going towards the end. Brevin Jordan, Gronk ended up going at the 203. I do think Gronk is an interesting value here, especially because he was going in pick 100. Now he's absolutely fallen off a cliff. If he does decide to play, Obviously, we've seen the Brady Gronk connection for ages. Brady loves his tight ends. So if Gronk does play, I mean, come on, what more can you ask for? Then getting a guy who probably will support you as a tight end, as a mid tight end one in the last round of the draft. I think Deshaun Watson's still on the board though. I don't think. Yep, he hasn't even gone off the board. Honestly, it would have been an interesting pick, but I do think getting the wide receiver depth is probably better, especially because we do have three tight ends. I wouldn't really want to take three tight ends and three quarterbacks. Plus, we have Tom Brady and Dak Prescott. So overall, I think this was a great draft. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you guys have an awesome day. Thank you guys so much.